You've probably noticed it. The smarter someone is, the less happy they seem. The person in your life who thinks the deepest, who sees the patterns others miss, who asks the uncomfortable questions, they're often the most miserable. Meanwhile, the ones who glide through life with simple pleasures and uncomplicated thoughts, they seem fine, happy even. You might have told yourself this is just a coincidence, that intelligence and suffering aren't connected, that smart people just overthink things, and if they just relax or be more positive, they'd be fine. But what if it's not a bug? What if it's a feature? What if intelligence doesn't lead to suffering by accident, but by design? What if the very capacity to understand deeply is the same capacity that guarantees you'll suffer more? This isn't self-help. This isn't about reframing your perspective or finding your purpose. This is about understanding a brutal truth that Arthur Schopenhauer explained over 150 years ago, a truth that modern psychology keeps rediscovering, that philosophy keeps circling back to, and that you've probably felt but never fully articulated. The truth is this: intelligence amplifies suffering. Not sometimes, not for some people, always, for everyone. And the sooner you accept this, the sooner you can stop fighting it and start navigating it. Let's talk about why being smart is a curse you can't escape. Think about the happiest person you know. Really think about them. Now ask yourself, are they intelligent? Are they deep thinkers? Do they contemplate existence, question social norms, or analyze the futility of human endeavor? Probably not. The happiest people you know are probably those who live in the moment, who don't question too deeply, who accept things as they are. They go to work, they enjoy their weekends, they have hobbies, they're satisfied. They don't lie awake at 3 a.m. wondering about the heat death of the universe or the arbitrary nature of meaning. Now, think about the smartest person you know, the one who sees through bullshit, who understands complex systems, who can hold contradictory ideas in their mind simultaneously. Ask yourself, are they happy? Schopenhauer saw this clearly. He wrote, "The ordinary man has no understanding. The genius has no happiness." This wasn't poetic exaggeration. This was observation. He understood that intelligence is fundamentally a tool for perceiving, and what you perceive when you look deeply at life isn't comforting. You see the absurdity, the repetition, the cosmic indifference, the way everyone's running on scripts they didn't write, chasing goals that won't satisfy them, believing narratives that fall apart under scrutiny. Modern psychology calls this depressive realism, the finding that mildly depressed people are actually more accurate in their assessments of reality than happy people. Happy people are optimistically biased. They overestimate their control, their abilities, their futures. Depressed people, they see things more clearly. Intelligence works the same way. The smarter you are, the more patterns you recognize. The more patterns you recognize, the more you see that most of human life is repetitive suffering, punctuated by brief moments of relief we mistake for happiness. You've probably experienced this yourself. Maybe you're in a conversation and someone's explaining why they're excited about something, a new job, a new relationship, a new purchase, and you can see exactly how it's going to disappoint them. Not because you're cynical, but because you've seen the pattern. You know how hedonic adaptation works. You know that novelty fades. You know that every "this time it's different" is the same. But you can't say this, because if you do, you're the downer, the pessimist, the person who just needs to be more positive. So you smile and nod, and the gap between what you see and what you can say becomes another layer of isolation. This is the first truth. Intelligence makes you see what others don't, and what you see isn't beautiful.
Let's get specific about how this works. Because it's not just that smart people think too much, it's more systematic than that. Schopenhauer identified the core problem. Intellect is invisible to the man who has none. But more than that, intellect is a magnifying glass for suffering. Here's why. Suffering, at its base level, comes from desire. You want something you don't have. You have something you don't want. This is the pendulum Schopenhauer described, swinging between unfulfilled desire, suffering, and fulfilled desire, boredom. Now, what does intelligence do? It multiplies your capacity for desire by expanding what you can conceive of wanting. A less intelligent person wants simple things: food, comfort, basic social connection. These are satisfiable, at least temporarily. But your desires are abstract. You want meaning, you want authenticity, you want to understand, you want recognition for your ideas, you want conversations that match your depth, you want a partner who gets it, you want work that matters. These aren't satisfiable because they're not concrete. There's no finish line for understanding. There's no achievement that grants you permanent meaning. There's no relationship that will finally make you feel fully known. Think about the last time you achieved something significant. Maybe you completed a difficult project, or you finally understood a complex concept, or you had a moment of connection with someone. How long did the satisfaction last? A day? A week? And then what? The baseline crept back. The wanting resumed. This is hedonic adaptation, and intelligence accelerates it, because the smarter you are, the faster you analyze and integrate new experiences, which means the faster they become ordinary, the faster they become boring. Schopenhauer put it brutally: wealth is like seawater. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. But he could have said the same about knowledge, understanding, achievement, all the things intelligent people pursue. You're not broken for experiencing this. You're experiencing the natural consequence of having a mind that can conceive of more than it can attain. The tragedy is that the very thing that makes you capable of understanding, your intelligence, is the thing that makes you incapable of satisfaction. And here's the kicker: you can't unsee this. Once you recognize the pattern, it applies to everything. Every future achievement is pre-disappointment. Every goal is a setup for the inevitable return to baseline. The intelligent person's curse isn't overthinking. It's accurate thinking about a reality that offers no permanent solution to the problem of wanting.
Let's address the elephant in the room. If intelligence amplifies suffering, does that mean stupidity prevents it? Yes, exactly yes. This is uncomfortable to accept because we've been taught that intelligence is unequivocally good, that knowledge is power, that understanding is freedom. But Schopenhauer didn't buy it. He wrote, "For the more a man has in himself, the less he will want from other people. The more a man is thrown back on himself, the more solitude will cost him." Translation: the smarter you are, the more you need to rely on your own mind for stimulation and meaning. But your own mind is also the source of your suffering. You're trapped with the very thing that torments you. Meanwhile, people of average or below average intelligence, they can be satisfied by external things. A good meal actually makes them happy. A TV show genuinely entertains them. Social validation from their peer group actually fulfills them. They're not constantly meta-analyzing their experience, recognizing the emptiness, seeing through the social game. Think about someone you know who seems genuinely happy with simple pleasures. They watch sports and actually care who wins. They follow celebrity gossip and feel invested. They believe in their horoscope or their political party or their favorite brand. They don't question it. They just participate. You can't do that. You've tried. You've tried to just enjoy things without analyzing them, but your mind won't let you. You're watching the movie, but you're also watching yourself watch the movie. You're aware of the manipulation, the formula, the manufactured emotion. You can't lose yourself in it because there's always a part of you standing outside, observing. This is what Schopenhauer meant when he talked about the will to life versus intellect. Most people are driven purely by will, by instinct, desire, survival. They want to eat, reproduce, acquire status, and they do these things without much reflection. And in that lack of reflection, there's peace. But you? Your intellect sits on top of your will like a critic in a theater, commenting on every scene. Look at you, wanting approval from people you don't even respect. Notice how you're pursuing this goal just to distract yourself from existential dread. Interesting how this accomplishment means nothing now that you have it. The critic never shuts up, and the critic is you. Here's what no one wants to admit. Ignorance doesn't just correlate with happiness, it enables it. The less you understand how reality works, the more you can believe in solutions, progress, meaning. The more you understand, the more you see that it's all just strategies for managing the fundamental dissatisfaction of being conscious. Why does mainstream self-help not work for intelligent people? Because it's designed for people who can still believe. Find your passion. Intelligent people know passion is just channeled will. Create meaning. Intelligent people know meaning is constructed, not discovered. Practice gratitude. Intelligent people are grateful, but they also know gratitude is just a psychological technique for temporarily overriding the wanting machine. You can't unsee the machinery, and seeing the machinery is the definition of intelligent awareness.
But it gets worse, because it's not just that intelligence makes you suffer more, it's that it makes you suffer alone. Schopenhauer observed, "We can come to look upon the deaths of our enemies with as much regret as we feel for those of our friends, namely, when we miss their existence as witnesses to our success." This is darker than it seems. It reveals that even our relationships are fundamentally about being seen, being understood, being validated. But what happens when no one can see you? When you operate at a level of complexity that most people can't reach? You've experienced this. You're in a conversation, and you make a point that requires holding 3 concepts in tension. The other person latches onto one concept, misunderstands it, and responds to something you didn't say. You try to clarify. They get defensive. You realize they can't follow what you're saying. Not because they're not trying, but because they literally don't have the cognitive architecture. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect in reverse. The Dunning-Kruger effect describes how incompetent people overestimate their abilities. But there's a corollary. Highly competent people can't see from the perspective of incompetence anymore. You can't remember what it was like to not understand these things, so you can't calibrate your communication to their level without feeling like you're being condescending or dishonest. The result? Chronic intellectual isolation. Think about your closest relationships. How many people in your life can you talk to about what you actually think about? Not what you think about the weather or the news or your day, what you actually think about, the ideas that occupy your mind, the questions that keep you up. For most intelligent people, the answer is 0 to 3 people, maybe. And even with those people, there's only partial overlap. There are thoughts you have that no one else will ever fully grasp. Schopenhauer lived this. He spent most of his life in intellectual isolation, his work largely ignored during his lifetime. He understood that the greater the genius, the greater the solitude, not because geniuses are antisocial, but because there simply aren't enough people who can meet them where they are. You might think, but I could just explain better. I could find a way to communicate so they understand. No, you can't,
Because understanding requires prerequisites. It's like trying to explain calculus to someone who doesn't understand algebra. You can describe it, but they won't get it. And the gap between describing and understanding is the gap where connection dies. This is why intelligent people often feel more alone in a crowd than actually alone, because solitude is honest, but being surrounded by people who can't understand you is a special kind of loneliness, the loneliness of being seen but not known. And you can't blame them. They're doing their best with what they have. The tragedy isn't that they're stupid. The tragedy is that intelligence creates unbridgeable gaps between people. The smarter you are, the fewer people can reach you. The fewer people can reach you, the more you suffer the isolation of being understood only by yourself. And yourself is already the problem.
So what do? You can't make yourself less intelligent. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't force others to understand what they're not equipped to understand. Most intelligent people try one of three failed strategies. First, dumbing down. You learn to hide your intelligence. You have surface-level conversations. You pretend to care about things you don't care about. You laugh at jokes you don't find funny. You perform normalcy. This works socially, but it's exhausting, and it increases your suffering because now you're not just isolated, you're isolated while pretending not to be. You're living a performance, and the gap between your internal and external life becomes a chasm. Second, superiority. You lean into it. You cultivate an identity around being smarter than everyone else. You collect credentials. You debate to win. You surround yourself with people you can outthink. You turn intelligence into status. This works for ego, but it's hollow, because deep down you know that being the smartest person in the room doesn't make you happy. It just makes you right. And being right about the futility of existence is not a consolation prize worth having. Third, distraction. You throw yourself into work, projects, substances, entertainment, anything to keep the mind busy. If you're always processing new information, solving new problems, pursuing new goals, maybe you won't notice the underlying emptiness. Schopenhauer offers a different path, but it's not comforting. He wrote, "A man can be himself so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom, for it is only when he is alone that he is really free." This is the intelligent person's actual strategy. Accept the isolation, accept the suffering, accept that your intelligence will never lead to happiness, and stop expecting it to. This isn't giving up, this is clarity. Stop trying to find the conversation that will make you feel understood. It won't come. Instead, find peace in understanding yourself. Stop trying to achieve the thing that will finally satisfy you. It won't exist. Instead, find meaning in the process of pursuing it, knowing it's ultimately empty, but doing it anyway. Stop trying to think your way out of suffering. You can't. Your thinking is the source. Instead, learn to observe your thinking without being enslaved by it. What does this look like practically? Embrace solitude. Not loneliness, solitude. Time alone with your mind, not fighting it, but also not indulging every spiral. Reading, thinking, creating. Recognize that your deepest companionship will always be with yourself. Lower your expectations of others. Most people will not understand you. This isn't their fault. Accept it. Find the few who can meet you part way and treasure those connections for what they are. Partial, imperfect, but real. Create for its own sake. Your intelligence demands expression. Write, build, make, not because it will bring you happiness, but because not doing it makes you suffer more. The suffering of creation is preferable to the suffering of stagnation. Study philosophy. You're already cursed with a mind that asks big questions. You might as well have frameworks for navigating them. Schopenhauer, the Stoics, the Buddhists, they all understood suffering and offered maps, if not solutions.
The intelligent person's path isn't about winning or happiness. It's about dignity in suffering. It's about seeing clearly, accepting what you see, and continuing anyway.
Here's the paradox. Understanding that intelligence guarantees suffering is itself a form of freedom. Because once you stop fighting it, once you stop waiting for the achievement or insight or relationship that will finally make you happy, you can stop wasting energy on false hope. Schopenhauer understood this deeply. He wrote, "If we were not something more than individual, the loss of any individual would be all we can conceive. But we are something more. We are the will to live itself." This sounds abstract, but here's what it means for you. Your individual suffering doesn't matter cosmically. You're just one instance of consciousness experiencing the universal condition of wanting and not having. Everyone suffers. You just suffer with more awareness. And weirdly, this is liberating because it means your suffering isn't personal. It's not a failure. It's not something wrong with you. You're not broken. You're just intelligent enough to see the game clearly. Most people are playing the game while believing in it. They think if they just get the promotion, find the right partner, reach their goal weight, everything will click into place. And when it doesn't, they think they did something wrong. They try again. They believe harder. You know better. You know the game is rigged, not by malice, but by structure. Consciousness itself is a trap. You can't want to not want. You can't think your way out of being a thinking thing. You can't achieve your way into permanent satisfaction. But you can stop resisting the truth of it. This is what Schopenhauer meant by the denial of the will. Not suicide, not depression, acceptance. Seeing the wanting machine for what it is and refusing to take it so seriously. Think about it. What if you stopped believing that happiness is the goal? What if you accepted that your baseline is mild dissatisfaction punctuated by brief moments of relief and intense moments of beauty, and that's just how it is for conscious beings? What changes? Everything and nothing. You still want things. Your will doesn't disappear, but you stop being surprised when getting what you want doesn't fix you. You stop being devastated by disappointment. You stop taking your suffering so personally. You realize this is what it means to be intelligent and alive. It's not a bug. It's the cost of admission. And once you accept that cost, you stop fighting reality. You stop waiting for reality to change. You start navigating it as it actually is. This doesn't mean you become numb or apathetic. Schopenhauer never advocated for that. What he advocated for was clear sight without illusion, compassion for others because they're trapped in the same machinery, appreciation for beauty and art because they temporarily quiet the will, engagement with life not because it's ultimately meaningful, but because you're here anyway. The intelligent person's freedom is this. You see the chains. You know they can't be broken, so you stop pretending they're not there and learn to move with them instead of against them. Most people will never understand this. They'll keep chasing, they'll keep believing, and when you try to explain it, they'll think you're depressed. Let them. You're not depressed, you're clear-sighted, and clarity, even painful clarity, is better than comfortable delusion.
So here it is, the brutal truth Schopenhauer understood, and that you've probably been circling for years. Intelligence amplifies suffering, always, without exception. The smarter you are, the more you suffer. Not because you're doing it wrong, because you're doing it right. You see patterns others miss. You ask questions others don't think to ask.
You understand at levels others can't reach. And every single one of these capacities makes you more aware of what's wrong, what's empty, what's futile. Accept it. You will never be as happy as less intelligent people. You will never have the blissful ignorance that allows them to just enjoy things. You will never stop meta-analyzing your experience. You will never unsee the machinery. Accept it. Your relationships will always have a ceiling. Most people will never fully understand you. Even the people who love you will only see parts. You will always be slightly alone, even in connection. Accept it. Your achievements will never satisfy you permanently. Every goal you reach will immediately become ordinary. Every peak will flatten into a new baseline. The hedonic treadmill will never stop. Accept it. But here's what else is true. You get to see beauty that others miss. You understand complexity that others can't grasp. You experience depth that others never access. Your suffering is greater, but so is your capacity for profound appreciation. You are more isolated, but you're also more free. You don't need the validation of the crowd because you've already seen through the crowd's games. You don't have happiness, but you have clarity. And in the hierarchy of values, clarity is higher than happiness, because clarity is true and happiness is mostly illusion. Schopenhauer spent his life studying suffering, and his conclusion wasn't be happy, it was see truly, because seeing truly is the only honest response to being cursed with consciousness. You are intelligent. This means you will suffer more than others. This means you will be more isolated than others. This means you will never have the simple pleasures that make ordinary life bearable for ordinary people. But it also means you're awake. You're not sleepwalking through life like most people. You're actually here, actually seeing, actually grappling with what it means to exist. And that's not nothing. It won't make you happy, but it will make you real. Accept it. Accept your intelligence. Accept your suffering. Accept that the two are inseparable. And then live anyway. Not because it will get better, not because there's some reward waiting, but because you're here, you're conscious, and you might as well engage with reality as it actually is instead of as you wish it were. This is the only path forward for intelligent people. Not happiness, not satisfaction, not meaning. Truth, clarity, acceptance. Everything else is just refusing to see. If this made sense to you, you're part of the minority who can handle reality without sugarcoating. Most people need their illusions. You don't. If you want tools to work with your mind instead of against it, meditation practices, consciousness techniques that Schopenhauer himself would have recognized, I've created a resource for exactly that. Link in the description. Write in the comments, "It made sense to me." Let me know you're out there. Let me know you're one of the few who can look at the darkness without flinching. And if you want more brutal philosophical truth that actually helps instead of just making you feel good, subscribe. Because I'm not here to sell you hope. I'm here to give you clarity. You're intelligent. You suffer because of it. And now you know why. Stop fighting it. Start accepting it. That's the only freedom you'll ever get.